the overall universe in Dual Universe will be quite large. But the real question is how far you are going to be able to unlock the technologies that will allow you to expand and explore this universe. So at start, there will be only the Alioth planet, surrounded by maybe 10 to 20 other planets in the solar system. That will be the setting for the release. And as we release further expansions, that includes, for example, stargates, you will be able to explore further and further away by building bridges to new solar systems all around you. So there's a difference in Dual Universe between the existing universe that will be very large, that you can scan, that you can analyze, and the known universe, that is the part that the players have actually made accessible through the technology. Scripting in the game is going to be done via LUA, which is a simple programming language that will allow you to automate certain actions that you can do with your elements that you could do normally, but that will also be able to be done through the scripting. There will be limits to what you can do through the scripting. For example, the number of actions you can do per second, also the efficiency of those actions compared to you actually doing things. And we are going to think deeply whether we allow you to automate certain things or not. For example, there won't be automated mining because that will probably break the mining activity for players, particular beginner who are entering the game. So we are thinking about scripting to be limited and not having the possibility to break the game. We can't load all the elements of all the constructs of all the players at the same time. We have to display first those who are close by. And because scripts are going to interact with the elements, you need those elements to be loaded, and so you need to be close to where the action is taking place. That means that you cannot be infinitely far away from where the script is actually running if you want it to run properly. That will be a limitation. We will think in the future whether we could have some kind of very limited action, reaction type of script that could be running on the server with a low frequency, so that you could still automate certain defense mechanisms, for example. But this is not going to be in the release, and we will think about it, and it's not something we can guarantee at the moment. Scripts are attached to control units, and control units are assets like any other assets. They have an owner that can be you or can be your organization. That being said, when you want to use that asset, you can use it either in your name if you have the permission given by the organization, or you can use it in the name of the organization, again, if you have the authorization to do so. Depending on that context, the script will be executed in the name of the organization or in your name, and the consequences of everything it does will impact either the organization or yourself. Okay, so there will be biomes for the planets. Actually, that's what we're working on increasing the number of biomes, which are the building blocks to create planets with variety on it through procedural generation. So there will be a limited set of biomes at start that we will extend as time goes on. Same thing for the animals. There will be a limited set at the beginning, and we will add more and more as time goes on through further expansions. Weather, like rain and things like that, is something we're looking at, might actually come at some point. It's a difficult problem because you have to simulate it at the scale of a planet. It's not like a local thing. The world is one real world, so if there's a storm, you should see it from space. That makes it more complicated than just a visual effect. So we're looking into this, and plants also will be generated part of the biomes. We will see whether you can actually collect those plants to make medicines. All these things are in the working for probably for further expansions after the initial release to enrich the gameplay of explorers. Wheeled vehicles will not be something we develop at first. It might actually come later in an expansion of the game, but what we will have at the beginning is hovercrafts and the capability to build vehicles that fly at a low altitude. And you can build some tanks or armored vehicles that way, and you will be able to transport them into larger transport vehicles and use this as a way to unload attack forces on a remote place. This will be possible. The pets that are part of the Kickstarter pledges will be purely cosmetical. They won't have any game effect, and you will not be able to lose them. They will not die. They will follow you everywhere if you allow it. The Deathstar. I'm pretty sure many people will want to build this, and the good news is that it's possible to build it. I don't know how long it will take. I think the amount of resources will be completely crazy, but it will be technically possible to build it because we have the same technology to display planets and to display player-made constructs. So that's the good news. The bad news is that we will not allow to have a death wave, because that would be breaking principle about fairness in the game, that you basically understand why things are happening to you. So if you're on the planet and you're suddenly obliterated, you don't even understand what happens, you're not aware of the reasons. This would be unfair, and we don't want to do this, but nevertheless, you can build a giant space station and call it the Deathstar, and I think a lot of people are going to try to do that. Yes, we're definitely working on a bounty system. The specifics of the feature are still in the working, so we're going to talk about it later, give you more details. But the idea is that we want to make sure that Dual Universe doesn't turn into a free-for-all PvP, but there are some countermeasures, including this bounty system, so that you have consequences if you have more aggressive behaviors. So we're working on that. It's a very important mechanism, and I think we will bring some new ideas on the scene regarding this system. When you make a blueprint from a given construct you have, this is called a master blueprint. And this master blueprint can be used to build copy blueprints that will be sold to the market. And whoever is using these copy blueprints, or actually whoever is buying a construct that is made from them, will not be allowed, unless you allow it, will not be allowed to actually rebuild a blueprint from it. So there's this sort of digital right management that you can control that says, yes, it's okay, you can build a construct from that, but you cannot reverse engineer and rebuild a blueprint from it. This is a very important mechanism that will be in the game. At the release time, territories will be limited to planets only. We're still thinking about how we can then extend that so that you can have the notion of ownership of a planet, and then ownership of a system, and then ownership of a region that includes several systems. These are features that will come after the initial release in further expansions, and we are still working on it. PvE activities will be minimal at the beginning of the game when we release. We may add more things, but the spirit of the game is that the things that happen should be actually driven by players. PvP, in terms of combat, would be one thing you can do in the game. We want to make all other activities equally important. So it's not just a game about space battles. There will be a lot of things happening on the economy, on the diplomacy, on the trade, on the politics aspects that we want to favor. So PvP, in terms of player fighting against players, will be one aspect, but definitely not the only one in Dual Universe. The way damage is going to be implemented, most likely in construct versus construct, is that we will use the fact that every voxel is editable, so you could actually edit a hole in it, an area of destruction. So we will implement a way to select the place where you want to shoot. Then you shoot based on the stats and your skills and the type of weapon damage that you use and the types of protections and the type of materials and all sorts of things. There will be an amount of damage that happens to the ship. We may try to aggregate the overall level of destruction to give you a visual feedback so that you have an idea of a percentage of destruction, but that will be purely informative. Things will actually be destroyed and things will be deactivated if you lose an engine or if you lose a certain weapon. It will just cease to be operational in your construct. So this is aiming at being very realistic. What we want to have is that collision between constructs would actually create damage. We could do it technically, but the idea is that in terms of gameplay, we don't want people to build some kind of torpedoes ships and just slam ships over each other. And I don't think this is going to be a great addition to the gameplay, but it will certainly be a great addition to the load on the server. So we favor, rather than that, we favor missiles that will be formally implemented and that will not actually involve physical objects flying, but again the usual lock and fire mechanism with the stats behind the scene. The targeting that will happen between characters during character versus character combat is mostly a technical constraint on our side. As you know, we have this technology to allow potentially thousands of people to be close by in the same area. That comes with certain limitations on the frequency at which we can update things, especially things that are a bit far away from you. So for players who are close by, we may have some kind of automatic targeting that makes it almost transparent so you don't see it, but it will be there. But having something super accurate, like the kind of things you would have in an FPS where you can snipe someone very far away, it's just not possible. So we have to give up certain things so that we can all play in the same universe and have all this feeling of crowd around you. That's what we give up. So there's little chance we could actually change that. We could mitigate it with this auto-targeting that I just mentioned. This will be tested. This will be tried with you as we go through the alpha and beta. But that's basically a technical constraint we have. I would say that we believe in open source. So at start, when we release the game, the LUA aspect will be completely transparent and people will be able to see as soon as you are able to execute the script that you have the rights, then basically the server will send you the script and you will be able to see it. We might actually work in a later stage on a way to obfuscate the script so that it is rewritten in a way that makes it impossible to understand for a human, but would still make it equivalent in terms of execution. But we have not worked on that yet. It's a possibility that will open doors for having scripts that people cannot really reverse engineer. We are not sure about the idea of selling scripts per se. They will most likely be sold within the context of a given construct. But here there will be more discussions going on and things that could go on after the initial release in further expansions, because this could open doors to very interesting things. We trust also that people will exchange scripts outside of the game in other platforms on the web, and that will certainly happen whether we implement it in-game or not. So let's see how this is unfolding, and let's adapt and adjust things depending on what is necessary on the gameplay side. The day-night cycle will happen with the planets rotating and the sun will be fixed. We made a demonstration in a video showing how it will visually happen by actually moving the sun. This is the first step for us to test it. But that's the way it's going to happen in the game, by planets rotating around their axis. Breeding animals and feeding them for food later on is not something we have been working on so far, but we would like to have your opinion in the community. Maybe this is something we could add, and that would actually add a dimension, very interesting one to the game. So let's discuss this together. Scanning will be a very important feature at release. We have worked on a mechanism to make it so that you can develop real skills into using the different techniques we will introduce, so that scanning for the rarest materials will be a real achievement. And you can become an expert in it, which is something that makes you valuable as part of a team of miners, for example. So we've worked a lot on this aspect. We will talk about it more in the future. Lifetime subscription, as well as any regular subscription, will include all future expansions. Future expansions will be free. If you think about it, that's the only way to go when you have a single shard world where everybody is playing in the same world at the same time. So no question about that. About cosmetic items, we might add that at some point, but in any case, if that happens, it will actually be items that you could trade on the in-game markets for in-game money. So nothing that will be reserved only for people having cash. Yes, after the alpha and after the beta, we will wipe out the world and restart from zero, because this is the last opportunity we will have to improve the procedural generation, the way the materials are distributed in the world due to the fine-tuning we do in this alpha and beta testing. So it is a necessity that we will be able to reset the world. However, the blueprints of whatever construct you've made will be preserved. So you will be able to use those blueprints. Hopefully the way the voxels are going to be handled will not change. If that happens, we will try to have conversion scripts and way to preserve actually those blueprints that you can take with you in the game when it's initially released. So provided that you gather the materials that are involved in your blueprints, which might actually take a bit of time, but provided you do this, you will be able to rebuild whatever you had in alpha or beta.